What is the return of the NFL? Again, America's pastime. What does it mean for these streaming companies?
It's definitely big for streaming companies, and the ones you mentioned that show the game. As you've probably seen, the growth in streaming in the United States has pretty much ground to a halt. And I think with the return of NFL and to a certain extent college football with ESPN Plus, that the streaming companies and media companies in general are hoping that it restarts growth as the season kicks off this weekend.
You know, after we saw Colorado this weekend, it almost seems silly that the Pac-12 doesn't have a big TV deal, but we're not going to go on a tangent right now. I want to talk to you about the ongoing Hollywood strikes. How does that impact the streamers? And you touched on it just a minute ago. What is the NFL season? What is the return? Does that give these streamers a little bit more leverage to hold out? How does it change their business?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, the NFL is always the biggest thing on TV, and you said it earlier. 17 million average viewers on a regular season, playoffs 40 million. By far the biggest thing on TV. Live sports are even more important with the strike. You know, the fall season starts up in a couple of weeks, and there's going to be much less general entertainment, scripted general entertainment content. So companies that have live sports, and a lot of it, are much better positioned, and that's generally companies like ESPN and Fox, which really rely on sports, especially during the fall.
So without that other Hollywood, I'm going to call it Hollywood content, scripted shows and things like that, what does that mean also for the ability of these streamers to raise prices and add tiers and things like that? Does that change the story at all?
Yeah, well, sports are built for the ad tier. So getting the ad tiers out and on their ad stack and the whole sort of ad infrastructure up and running is the precursor to really going into the sports segment when it comes to streaming. Because of the natural breaks in the game, it's really made for advertising. But as you've seen with this quarter's earnings, there's been a real change in the whole streaming atmosphere. Companies are cutting back on their content spend, raising prices. They're really trying to focus on profitability, and advertising in sports is going to be a big part of that.
I want to ask you more about the broader space right now. There's a dispute between Charter Communications and Disney. Charter not carrying Disney's programming. That means a lot of people are going to miss out on the NFL, including the Jets, a Super Bowl favorite, and the Bills, another really popular team. This dispute, what does that tell you, or what insight does it give you about just the future of streamers and live sports and cable companies going forward?
Right, it's a great question, and you're right. The Monday Night Football game, especially Charter or Spectrum, which is their brand, is the major cable provider in New York. So it's especially a big focus. That game's going to be a big focus of a lot of fans that aren't going to be able to see it unless things get resolved between now and Monday night. But I think what it shows is the stress put on the system by the streamers. Charter had a call on Friday where they talked about really the lack of profitability in distributing video now, especially now that they're competing against these streamers, most of whom are their suppliers. So they're basically calling time out here and saying we need to really rethink the whole system. And I think at the end of the day, what it's going to do is it's going to sort of accelerate the move from traditional linear TV to streaming, depending on how this contract or how this dispute works out.